Hi, and welcome to another episode of Talk with Confidence. This is where we have inspirational conversations with inspirational people. Today we have a truly inspirational guest in the studio. His name is Nhlamulo Baloyi, or is it Nhlamulo Baloyi? He'll correct me. He'll correct me. But he's a young academic. He's also a lecturer at the University of South Africa. Decent, welcome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you for accepting the invite, man.
Yeah, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. So you're a lecturer at the University of South Africa?
Yes, I lecture at UNISA in the College of Economic and Management Sciences.
Wow. You know, when we think of lecturers, we usually imagine these old people, you know, gray hair, the belly coming up to here. But you're a young man. I mean, you're not even 30 years old yet.
No.
So how did it come that you became a lecturer at such a young age?
Look, I've always looked into being part of the academic sphere. You know, I always wanted to be in academia because of the influence that academia has on people and the influence that it has had on my life personally. So it was just a personal choice that I took. Yes, it is the traditional thought is that academics are these old folks who are approaching their best before. But it is becoming younger and younger.
Yeah.
It's becoming younger and younger. It's becoming more appealing to young people.
Yeah.
And hence you would find even young people with doctorates, young people who are getting into the academic field because of the global need for fresh ideologies and fresh minds.
Fresh insights.
Yes.
Wonderful. I mean, from an academic point of view, your own studies, your own qualifications, you've got a master's, I believe, and then you're also doing your PhD.
Yes.
Can you just take us through, what was your first degree and, getting up to where you are right now?
Look, I enrolled for my first degree at the University of Pretoria in international relations. It's a discipline which I enjoyed very much because it it has a very broad spectrum of teachings from economics to politics to developmental studies, where you get to understand a variety of disciplines mixed together into one qualification. So it was something that but also I had a very keen interest in issues of the public service, and hence I did my honors degree in public management and administration, which I completed. After completing that, I needed to focus a little bit more on leadership. So leadership became my focus area. During my honors, I found very much appeal in leadership, especially public service leadership, and hence I did my Master of Philosophy in Responsible Leadership at the Albert Lithuli Center for Responsible Leadership that's in Pretoria. So yes, and now pursuing the doctoral degree in leadership and ethics.
So we'll be calling you Dr. Baloyi.
Yes.
You just said matter of time.
A few years.
In just a few years. Wonderful, man. That's inspiring.
Yeah, good.
I mean, like you said, there are more and more younger people going into the academics field.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? What is the value of this particular sphere?
Look, we need to sustain knowledge, and you cannot sustain knowledge if you only have seasoned people or seasoned academics. You need rookies to enter the sphere so that the seasoned researchers and academics can sort of impart knowledge to the young ones. We work with really seasoned academics. We meet with proper scholars, and researchers on a daily basis, and some retire, we lose some, and if young people do not enter this sphere of academics, we'll get to a place where we no longer have knowledge, we no longer have researchers,
people developing new knowledge.
Yes.
I mean, one of the advantages I imagine of younger people like yourself getting into the academic sphere is that there is fresh knowledge. Young people always come with new ideas that perhaps have not been explored at length by the older generation. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, it is, because the younger generation, in my view, I mean, we need to start to question how things have been done. We need to start questioning the methods, because across time, methods have to change and transform. We cannot be using the same methods to remedy problems that we had
100 years ago.
So, and sometimes the seasoned guys do not have the capacity to do that, because they're used to the rigid, non-flexible way of solving problems. And there are problems that seasoned scholars cannot solve.
It needs new fresh minds,
new blood. It's a problem of context sometimes. We're in a context where the relevance of young people is becoming bigger and bigger. So we do need, academia does need a lot of young people to also assist and to better and to improve on the thinking of the seasoned scholars as well, because we're living in a generation where there is a lot of youth issues, which are understood also by
younger guys.
So we cannot expect the older generation to understand or fully comprehend some of the issues that we have, because they did not go through those issues. We need to do it on an introspective level.
Because and I mean, if you and I as a young person, you're on the ground, you're interacting with youth every day, you understand the dynamics better than somebody who's at an arm's length from those issues. So even when you write about those issues or when you research those issues, it's stuff that you've come into contact with and you can contextualize in a better way.
Yes, and by saying that, we cannot reject the necessity of seasoned scholars, seasoned academics, because they ground us.
True.
They give us grounding.
The roots.
So we come with all these nice ideas, and sometimes they are rejected. It's nice to speak about this nice new method to develop something, but they will ground you. And say, hey, folk, can you? So it's a balance. You need to find a balance. Where they fail, we come in and usher new ideas. But where old ideologies fail, the new ones can come in and assist.
Wonderful. You touched on something that I'm also quite passionate about, leadership. And you said you did your master's thesis on responsible leadership. What is responsible leadership?
Look, responsible leadership in essence is to take cognizance of the effect that your actions or words can have on the next person. So what you do doesn't necessarily have to be towards someone, or what the decisions that you make today, what impact can they have on the next person?
And do you believe that South Africa or Africa, one has to have an Africa focus, in fact, do you think responsible leadership is being practiced when we look at Africa broadly, and what needs to happen, what needs to change?
Look, the debate on leadership is one that enjoys no universal understanding. And by that I mean that there is no real grounding or definition as to what this concept is. It still enjoys vagueness. Because we speak of different types of leadership. And on the African context, if we speak of Africa and we have to introduce Africa, we have to take it back years back. Because remember, Africa is not, in Africa, traditional governance was practiced. And we are now in an era of democratic dispensation. So now we have to query what are the compatibilities of traditional governance and this leadership that we have. We've always had leadership. We speak of traditional leadership. We've always had leadership in Africa. It's just the mode of practice of this leadership.
The kind of leadership, the philosophy of the leadership.
The philosophy behind the leadership that we are practicing. how compatible is it to modern day principles of democracy? You know? So,
I mean, in Africa, one of the problems that are there is leaders who do not want to leave office. They want to, I mean, case in point, our neighbors.
Yeah.
You have people in leadership who essentially say they want to die in leadership, or they want to be in leadership for up to a point where they can no longer even take 30 steps. What obviously that presents a couple of problems. I mean, you were talking in the academic field that you have the old guard, but you always need new academics, new leaders to come to the fore. What problems do you believe that presents in African context? The fact that the style or the notion is that I should be in leadership until.
I think one of the issues regarding the African context is the issue of the philosophy, our thinking in terms of what leadership means. The misconception generally and universally is that leadership is a position.
Yeah.
And it isn't necessarily a position. Leadership is influence.
Yes.
So you can be in a position for 30 years and have very little influence. But there are some people who can be in a position for a few years but have so much influence.
Yes.
I'm reminded now of the late Thomas Sankara, who didn't enjoy so much time as the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso. But his influence we still feel
it today. His ideology, his philosophies are still permeating
so it's the thinking,
society.
Yes. So it's the philosophy to stick in one position, because they make it about position. They've made it about position without understanding what it has to do with. People gaining influence from what I say, what I do, and my interaction with them. You see,
and you impacting them in a way.
I have to impact,
exactly,
and it has to bring in some sort of change.
Yes,
if those things do not, or are not clear, are not evident, then I'm tempted to say it is not leadership. It is not leadership. It is simply a position that you are
occupying. There's an African proverb I like, I think it's from Ghana. It says, a big chair does not make a chief.
Yes.
So the big chair is the position, but it doesn't mean that you are in fact a leader.
Because that very same chair can be occupied by a teenager.
Yeah.
And that would make him a leader.
Yeah.
But
the chair does not make the leader.
No, it doesn't.
You mentioned Thomas Sankara. I mean, we've had some really great leaders on the African continent, the likes of the Ghanaian Kwame Nkrumah, and several others. I mean, even in the musical field, the likes of Fela Kuti. And I mean, we've had so many great examples of what leadership should be, especially on the African continent, with the backdrop of colonialism and apartheid and such a phenomena. What do you believe needs to come back in that? Because the caliber of leaders from that era, or from those specific individuals, the caliber of leadership hasn't really risen to that particular level. What do you think needs to change in order to bring that revolutionary spirit of true African Renaissance back?
You are touching on a concept that I'm really busy with at the moment, which I'm introducing in a research study that I'm doing. The concept of care. Leadership with care. Leadership not just for the position, but caring.
Yes.
About the people.
Yes.
The moment you lose connection with the people who are supposed to benefit from your influence, the moment that connection is lost, the chances of your leadership being ineffective is high, because your concern is no longer about now the people, it's now about what I can gain. The people you mentioned, your Fela Kutis, your Thomas Sankaras, they've always been concerned about the people. If you look into their writings and what is being said about them, in their speeches, they're concerned about people. If the concern is about people, if you care about people, then your actions will show that in actual fact I care about these people, and what I do should benefit them more than it should benefit me.
Some term it servanthood. Servanthood leadership.
We have servant leadership. I'm there. The basis for that is service. I need to serve you.
Because I mean, let's look at government. Government is there to serve the people. That's the primary role. But a lot of leaders, especially in government positions, look at it and say, you must serve me. So they've got it the other way around.
No, it's completely the inverse. It should be turned around. That's why you're called a public servant.
Yes.
You're not called a public recipient.
I like that.
You're called a public servant because you have to serve the masses.
Exactly. Exactly.
You have to, when you're a public servant, I believe personally that if you're a public servant, you have to do everything within your power to make sure that the citizen is happy, especially if you're working for government, because it's an office.
Exactly.
You're a professional, you're a servant.
Yes.
It's an office, and you've taken upon the responsibility and the duty to be of service to the next person, because you've been equipped with the skill to be able to serve that person. So I get into an office, I need assistance with something, you're able to assist me, you should assist me, because that is what the public service is there for.
And your doctoral or your thesis or your PhD thesis is based on exactly that, I believe.
It's based on ethics, training, and management in the public service.
In the public service.
Yes.
Ethics is another interesting topic, because it delves a little bit into what we've been talking about. It's about me serving you, not me gaining from the public coffers and whatnot. Do you believe there's an ethics issue in, let's look at South Africa, in the public sector? Do you believe there is an ethics issue that needs to be dealt with?
Before we even get into the public sector, society in general, one colleague of mine asked last year, is South Africa an ethical society? A question to which I still have no answer. but the occurrences of everyday South Africa and everyday public service tend to show us that, in actual fact, not necessarily. We are not. If you were to ask me and I had to give you an answer now, I'd say no. South Africa is not an ethical society. I don't think there's a society which is ethical, because we do wrong each and every day. We do wrong. There's always reports of misconduct, corruption. So it's not. My answer to that is no. It's not an ethical society.
And I mean, when you do research, obviously, research involves investigating what the issues are, and then the remedies to those issues. In your research, obviously I don't want to give away your thesis or your your thinking, but in your research, are you delving into what the solutions could be? I mean, turning a country like South Africa to become more ethical, and what are some of the processes and procedures that we need to go into?
Because we're dealing with ethics, and the only problem with the concept of ethics, there's no problem, because ethics is just ethics. There's no problem. The problem is that it has to be practiced by humans. The human element is a problem, and it will always be a problem.
But what way?
Yes, because there's a policy that says, "Do not do this."
Yeah.
And the folk will do the same thing. So our problem is
it's not the policy.
It's society in general. And in what I'm trying to do is, we've got a lot of legislation and policies that deal with ethics in the public service and ethics training.
Yeah.
And we've been praised across the globe as a country with a very stable and solid constitution. But the way in which there's been so much corruption even before the democratic era, there's been so much corruption.
True.
Coming into the democratic era, there's still a lot of corruption, rampant corruption, if I should say that. But then you ask yourself, what are these policies doing? What's the relevance of these policies? That is where my question came in, which moves me into my studies. Because then I shouldn't probably disclose too much of it because it's an unpublished.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted. It's an unpublished.
Yeah.
But the idea behind that is to develop models in which we can align basic and higher education in terms of ethics education, so that by the time, for the public service to also benefit from it, because to come up with a model of ethics training and management that is different to the current one that is being used, because it seems like it's ineffective, because we talk about, by the way, the Constitution speaks about that every public servant should promote a high standard of professional ethics. That is the first principle that they mention in chapter 10 of the Constitution. But that high standard is not necessarily seen by all.
Or experienced by those who are supposed to be getting the service.
They are not, it's not experienced. I mean, it's a dire strait. It's a dire strait. So
you mentioned something that I quite like, and I want to latch on to a little bit. You said even in the basic. For me, when you say basic, it may mean even going into high school level.
Yes, from when a child goes into the schooling system. Because by the time they come to the public service, it's late.
It's the habits, the norms of behavior have already been at foundation level, have been set, and I mean somebody has been behaving in a particular way. You may find the folk who are stealing sweets in primary, high school they were snatching cell phones, and then when
you get to government, there's 50 million, which is at my disposal. So I have the character of taking without consent. And
appropriate.
It goes to where it becomes incultured. Into your, it's your entire philosophy. Theft becomes your philosophy. and now you no longer care because this is public money, which should be benefiting the public. So it goes back to that responsibility thing in leadership.
Responsible leadership.
Because I take 50 million from a budget of 150 million. I take 50 million and I keep it to myself. Then it's supposed to serve a particular purpose.
It means there are kids who are going to go hungry.
Yes.
There are people.
It's a vicious cycle every time. It reminds me of a quote by, I think it's Frederick Douglass, who said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." You know,
I like that.
That's why my concern is to see if we can find an alignment from, and we must not neglect also the importance of home, the importance of the home in terms of educating children,
because ethics has to be entrenched in the home as well.
It's something you have to live. You have to live. You don't necessarily. That's why there's a debate whether you can teach ethics or not. And you learn ethics. You know, you learn it. So by seeing, by observing, and if you have it from a young age, there are good examples. There are so many good examples of people I know who've come from good backgrounds and have been taught well to do certain things, and they grow up with it. You know, they grow up. But if you don't have that, it becomes a problem.
So essentially, ethics is everybody's responsibility.
It is everybody's responsibility.
From an academic point of view, Mr. Baloyi, soon to be Dr. Baloyi, what do you want to achieve?
Look, academically, yes, short term is to complete the doctorate and also continue to contribute to the body of knowledge. And we have a huge responsibility among us, upon ourselves as academics, is that we have to continually be at the forefront of contributing to the body of knowledge. And we have to solve societal problems through research, you know. And that is one of the things that I'd like to do, to produce groundbreaking research, so that academia can benefit, so that the public service can benefit, and so that society at large can benefit. You know, we talk about the knowledge economy. You cannot advance a knowledge economy if you are stagnant in terms of reading and researching. So my wish for myself is to continue participating with other scholars and society in terms of finding solutions to the social problems that we have. It may be little, but you eat an elephant bit by bit. You know? We'll get there at some point. Wonderful. Research upon research, we'll get there. That research will solve a problem somehow because it's problem-based. So we'll be able to solve problems somehow. And I mean, in the near future, I've always loved this concept of professorship. It always sounds, you always hear these folks. There's an associate professor, a full professor, an extraordinary professor
with those
caps of theirs that you see when you attend graduations and stuff. It's also that type of an interest that you're able to profess knowledge. When you're a professor, you profess knowledge. You're a big shot. But it's just the trajectory of academia. You develop, and as you produce research, you get to professorship, and perhaps maybe later into more executive positions. Like
I see you there. I see you there already.
No, it's a nice thing to have. But a huge responsibility. But with time, of course, you have to, develop yourself such that you can be able to take the pressures of such a high office. It's like, it's like if you've seen the oath that the president takes when it assumes office, you can see that it's a heavy office.
There's a responsibility, responsible leadership. Responsible leadership.
Responsible leadership.
If you were to say something to a young person who is thinking about going into academia, the academic space, and maybe they're a bit reluctant, or there are people saying, no, man, don't go into that. Some deem it to be boring. There's so much reading, so much research, so much this and that. What would you say to that young person?
Look, it looks like, I think in general society will think that academics has to do with reading. Academia does not have to do with reading alone. Academia is there for knowledge. Knowledge comes also from interaction. You interact with people. A young person who would love to join academia and has that type of mentality, the thing about academia is that it has to, something in you has to be fueled. The love for it has to be fueled. And you get that fueling as you go, as you interact with academia. But the opportunities to influence are much bigger than in so many industries.
Exactly.
Because your work is seen throughout the world. You publish a paper and it's seen throughout the world. Whereas in another office, what you do in the office remains in the office. But in academia, if you want to influence the multitudes through research, and it's interesting because you're there to solve problems.
Yes, exactly. It's a high office.
It's a high calling. It's a high calling. Others would say it's the equivalent of being a high priest. Because
but it's believable if you look at the robes that adorn what they call the regalia.
The academic regalia.
It's in line with that.
Look, academia, you have to respond to the calling. And if you don't, you won't find it interesting. But it's such an interesting, to solve a problem through thinking. It's so rewarding.
Yes.
Because thinking is problematic.
There's a quote I like, I think it's by John C. Maxwell. He said, a minute of thought is more valuable than an hour of talking.
True. I had one professor say in one of the sessions I attended them, the most important thing to do is thinking. It's difficult. In actual fact, I sit with I had a conversation with our head of department. We like to interrogate this concept of thinking. Because sometimes it's difficult. Because you don't know, what are you thinking? Are your thoughts going to contribute to the body of knowledge that you're trying to advance? So it is difficult, but you teach yourself to think, through reading and and interaction.
Interactions and
Yeah.
Wonderful. Mr. Baloyi,
Yes.
I'm going to call you Dr. Baloyi. I'm going to call you Professor Baloyi because I have full confidence that you're going to reach there and you're going to make an impact on this generation and the generations to come.
Well, I appreciate the confidence.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, sir.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Hey, tada.
That was inspirational. I'm inspired. I'm sure you've been inspired. And you've been watching Talk with Confidence, conversations that inspire. Do tune in next time right here on Global Conference Television. Hey, tada.